Have you ever wondered how a ragtag group of rebels outsmarted one of the world's most powerful armies? What if we told you it involved fake retreats, sharpshooters, and a frontier legend? Get ready to dive into the incredible story of the Battle of Cowpens. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine it's January 17, 1781. The American Revolution has been raging for years, and things aren't looking great for the rebels. The British have been steamrolling through the South, and they're feeling pretty confident. But they're about to run into a guy who's going to give them a serious headache. Daniel Morgan. Now, Morgan wasn't your typical military leader. He was a rough-and-tumble frontiersman who'd fought in the French and Indian War and knew a thing or two about guerrilla tactics. The Continental Army had put him in charge of a group of fighters in the South, and he was about to show the British what he could do. On one side, we've got Morgan and his ragtag group of Continental soldiers, militia, and guerrilla fighters. These guys weren't exactly a well-oiled machine, but they knew the land, and they were fighting for their homes. On the other side, we've got the British, led by Lieutenant Colonel Banastra Tarleton. Tarleton was young, aggressive, and had a reputation for being ruthless. He commanded a force of battle-hardened Redcoats and Loyalist militia. On paper, the British had the advantage, but Morgan had a few tricks up his sleeve. Now, here's where things get interesting. Morgan knew his men weren't a match for the British in a straight-up fight, so he came up with a plan that was pretty darn clever. He positioned his troops on a hill near Cowpens, South Carolina. But instead of putting all his men in one line, he split them into three. Up front, he put his sharpshooters. These guys were crack shots, and their job was to pick off British officers and cause chaos. Behind them, he put the militia, not the most reliable troops, but they could shoot. And at the back, on top of the hill, he put his best troops, the Continental regulars. But here's the kicker. Morgan told the militia to fire 2 shots and then retreat. Now this might sound like a recipe for disaster, but Morgan knew what he was doing. He was counting on British aggression and a bit of psychology. When Tarleton's forces showed up, they were itching for a fight. They'd been chasing Morgan for days, and they were tired and hungry. When they saw the Americans, they charged right in, just like Morgan thought they would. The sharpshooters did their job, causing havoc in the British ranks. Then the militia fired their shots and started to retreat. The British, seeing this, thought they had the Americans on the run. They charged forward, breaking formation in their eagerness to pursue. But this is exactly what Morgan wanted. As the British charged up the hill, they ran straight into the Continental regulars, who were fresh and ready for a fight. Suddenly, the British found themselves in a world of trouble. Just when the British thought things couldn't get worse, they did. The militia, who they thought were running away, had actually just been circling around. They reformed and attacked the British from the side. At the same time, Morgan ordered his cavalry to attack the other flank. The British, who had been so confident just moments before, now found themselves surrounded. It was chaos. In less than an hour, it was all over. The British suffered heavy casualties, and a huge number were taken prisoner. Tarleton barely escaped with his life. The Battle of Cowpens was a major turning point in the Revolutionary War. It was a huge morale boost for the Americans and a devastating blow to the British. Morgan's clever tactics had allowed a smaller, less experienced force to defeat a superior enemy. But it wasn't just about the numbers. This battle showed that the Americans could outsmart and outfight the British. It proved that guerrilla tactics and knowledge of the land could overcome traditional military might. Now, you might be thinking, okay, cool story, but why should I care about a battle that happened over 200 years ago? Well, the Battle of Cowpens teaches us some pretty important lessons that are still relevant today. First, it shows the power of innovative thinking. Morgan didn't try to fight the British on their terms. Instead, he came up with a plan that played to his strengths and exploited his enemy's weaknesses. Second, it demonstrates the importance of understanding your own forces. Morgan knew the strengths and limitations of his men, and he used that knowledge to create a winning strategy. And finally, it's a reminder that underdogs can win, even against seemingly insurmountable odds. The Americans were outnumbered and outgunned, but with clever tactics and determined fighting, they emerged victorious. So there you have it, the Battle of Cowpens, where Daniel Morgan and his guerrilla fighters took on the mighty British Redcoats and came out on top. It's a tale of cunning, bravery, and the triumph of the underdog. The next time you're facing a tough challenge, remember Daniel Morgan. Think outside the box, play to your strengths, and who knows, you might just pull off a victory as impressive as the one at Cowpens. History isn't just about memorizing dates and names, it's about learning from the past to inspire our future. And the Battle of Cowpens? Well, that's one history lesson we can all take to heart.